The weapon business is the big business. You make the cash. I was a rich man when I was in that kind of business. Now I'm a poor man. Well, the difference is now an honest man. Before I was a crook. That is something that people are waiting for. Everybody's waiting for 2012. Why they're waiting for 2012? Why? Because they are hoping that this will lead to somehow a cosmic consciousness and the unveiling of certain energy. And that's true. Why? Because you are a corrupt nation, subservient to a Vatican, subservient to the Zionists, subservient to a new world order that, in my opinion, is completely corrupt. These elections, we support the Democrats, so Republicans are not on the list of support of the Illuminati. They can't make it. McCain can climb walls, can do whatever he wants, he's not going to become anything. And you go and study the history of the Vatican, you will find that from Papa Onofre to many other popes in the Vatican, they have been practicing magicians, parts of Freemasonry, Grand Masters from various traditions, sometimes officially not recognizing each other, but still meeting there. Why? Because the Comedy of Monte Carlo is a weapon dealer's place. Because it's all about weapons. A conspiracy, if we want, to create Adolf Hitler and make sure that this being did what he did so they could then claim the Israel state. Everything in plan, so for the end of times the Jews have their land. If you knew in reality what these entities were, you will not even touch them, you would just drove the other way. A Jesuit contacted an Italian journalist in the UFO scene and spread a certain amount of disinformation, including the fact that the CIV was still the greatest intelligence in the Vatican. With what? With 100 people, a couple of Benedictine monks, a couple of nuns, and the Vatican includes millions of members worldwide. They all function as intelligence from the beginning of time. I want to know more about the entities. Now, who is spreading this? How they think? Zaccaria Sitchin met with Corrado Balducci. Who is Corrado Balducci? Corrado Balducci is not only the official spokesman for the UFO in the Vatican. You understand? This is just a front. Who is he? He's a demonologist. Anytime they accuse the American Indians, oh, these are pagans, what are they doing to us? So we have to do science, observe the stars. All rubbish. If it is to create a fraternal bond of death, like the order of death in the Skull and Bones, then a human sacrifice is required. What is magic? The magic is the calculation of the arts with peculiar calculations around the symbols to evoke certain entities and have from them, if you want, certain gratifications. The Vatican Library, and we have a lot of ancient artifacts, ancient books, very rare texts that could revolutionize the thought of mankind. But as I said, because we will have to go to the next stage of existence in one way or another, the Vatican wants to adapt. So how they adapt? They adapted with Corrado Balducci and the whole alien revolution coming into the Vatican, Segretum Omega and a couple of UFOs, and everybody's happy. Because it's a tendency in humankind to have the worship for these entities that can give you terrestrial power. We were talking about Anunnaki, we were talking about Nephilim, but there is these entities come from other dimensions, other places in this universe. They can cross over into this dimension if we evoke them, if we call them.
Bohemian Grove as well.
Bohemian Grove is a different kind of initiation. There they like to dress up in even more fancy clothes, usually Republicans, a lot of whores, a lot of prostitution goes on during the nights of Bohemian Grove.
A fake sacrifice ceremony or a real sacrifice?
That most of the people in the mind control sectors of the intelligence units, the people who are taking control of the PSYOPs operations, they are occultists. Because occultism and black magic is the most ancient form of military tool known to mankind. At the end, there will be a war, and there will be dead people on the ground. Because the moment they want to microchip me, I'm going to take out a gun and shoot at them.
Hi, I'm Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot. We're here today with Leo Zagami, and we're going to be covering the Illuminati and their role on the world scene and exactly what their MO is, as well as their agenda. All right? So welcome, Leo, and thank you very much for bringing us into your house. We're very excited to be here with you today and be able to get a picture of the kinds of things that you've been part of in the past, and maybe your vision as to where things might be going in the future as well.
My name is Leo Lion Zagami. I'm now 37, soon to be 38, born the 5th of March 1970, from an English-Scottish mother and a Sicilian father, both of aristocratic origin. One represents the Di Gregorio family of Sicily, which is an ancient aristocratic family connected to the Sacred Roman Empire, while instead my mother is a Lion family member of the Scottish Lion family, which is also the family of the Queen Mother of England, connected to the Queen. So basically I was born within an aristocratic background. For that reason it was possible for me from an early age to enter what is the world of the elite and what you know as the Illuminati, that are still existing today in various forms and different disguises and these different names. But mainly they work for a pyramid of power that ends up in Jerusalem and Rome, and that represents both the Vatican and the Zionist establishment, together united to perform what they would like to be the New World Order, which is the result of their prophetic upbringing into this end-of-time scenario in which they see as a final result the kingdom of God. Now the kingdom of God perceived by the dark Illuminati, as I call them, because we have also Illuminati that are truly illuminated by God, and then we have the corrupt Illuminati, the evil forms of corruption that came into being, and at that point to regain power, which they did, they unleashed a series of agents around all the secret societies of the time, and they also established and helped establish the Illuminati Order of Weishaupt, which saw within their members some very illustrious characters, like for example Napoleon, who was initiated himself by Cagliostro, Giuseppe Balsamo, when he was a young lieutenant coming from Corsica. And this changed the history of Europe, because the great influence of the Jesuits upon, for example, Napoleon made sure that there was a clear revenge against what was perceived to be the enemies of the Vatican themselves at that time, the Jesuits, a clear revenge towards their enemies inside the Vatican, and this might have been also the Knights of Malta, that in that period with Napoleon lose, for example, their island and their sovereignty on that island. Well, my intention is to reveal today, tonight, whenever you're going to see this video, a few things that might shock you. Like, for example, the revelation that in the Vatican himself we have over 40 cardinals that are Muslim and that are practicing the Jehoshaphat, which is a specific holy book that the Muslims use for specific purposes, and called the Jehoshaphat al-Kabiri. And this book is being left to the descendants of Muhammad for a specific purpose, also leading to the end of times.
What is the purpose?
To be able to control that evil, those evil forces that, for example, the majority, unfortunately, in the Vatican practices with the black masses, with the evocation of certain entities, with the use of these demons. Now, people must say, how is possible the Pope is evoking demons? Well, if you just do a little bit of brief history lessons and you go and study the history of the Vatican, you will find that from Papa Onofre to many other popes in the Vatican, they have been practicing magicians themselves, using evocations, publishing also material on these evocations, through who? The Jesuit order is in charge of the esoteric side of the Vatican. This has happened because the esoteric order is very important for the Vatican, as it includes all this secret information regarding the evocations and how they should be done. So, since the time of the Reformation, the Vatican didn't want the Protestant world to be left out of control. They said, okay, we might leave them independence, but in the meantime we have the Jesuits controlling them in any way possible, also through these links, like the secret societies, and then the Rosicrucians became corrupt and became themselves part of the Jesuit conspiracy in the 17th century. I would like also to say that there is, unfortunately today, the disinformation coming from Jesuit headquarters. This information comes into being when Zaccaria Sitchin meets in the year 2000 in Bellaria with Corrado Balducci. Zaccaria Sitchin also gets invited by the Pope, John Paul II, visits secretly the Pope in the Vatican, takes from him instructions to write his pile of rubbish, which is the End of Days book that he has brought into being lately.
You're saying Zachariah Sitchin was told to write this book and was instructed on what to write?
Zaccaria Sitchin was indeed instructed because he can't tell the truth. This guy is deliberately spreading this information because he can't reveal really the truth without causing problems for his cause, the Zionist cause, the cause of the Vatican, which he has embraced.
Are you saying that Zachariah Sitchin is a member of what? The Illuminati?
Absolutely. Zaccaria Sitchin is a member of the New World Order used to spread deliberate disinformation. Let's say, I want to just make you figure out how this happened. When, at the end of the 90s, in the alternative media, certain information started to spread, especially regarding these Anunnaki beings, call them Nephilims, call them however you know. Now, what are they really? Do they really want you to know what they are? No, they want you to know what they want, you know, how their idea that they want to spread is something of a pre-constructed idea, which is disinformation. It's not the real thing. If you knew in reality what these entities were, you would not even touch them. You would just drove the other way.
Well, tell us what is the real nature of
Okay, no, but I tell you, just a second.
From your point of view.
No, but this is interesting how the Jesuits spread this information. A Jesuit contacted an Italian journalist in the UFO scene and spread a certain amount of disinformation, including the fact that the Civ was still the greatest intelligence in the Vatican, with what? With 100 people, a couple of Benedictine monks, a couple of nuns, and the Vatican includes millions of members worldwide. They all function as intelligence from the beginning of time. They all go to confessions. The Catholics, well, they are part of an intelligence system run by the Vatican. That's how it is from the beginning of time. So they definitely don't need only one apparatus that can control. Then, if you go and study the history of the Civ, you see that it's a Jesuit-based thing that is full of Jesuits. So, and then, on top of that, who is running the astronomic laboratories for the Vatican? The Jesuits. For example, in Mount Graham in Arizona, nobody asks what is happening. I can tell you what is. I can tell you also what they're doing.
Well, tell me.
So this information goes through and then hits the appropriate sources, and they can say, okay, there is a Jesuit footage of Planet X. Another pile of the biggest pile of rubbish ever, could only come out of the minds of the Jesuits. Why? Because the Jesuits are very intelligent. They can figure out how to take, sorry if I say very lower, the piss out of anybody, because they are really masters of deception. I work with them. I will show you some picture after of these people, but how they work is...
But what is their motive for this disinformation?
So you want to know more about the entities. Now, who is spreading this? How they think? Zaccaria Sitchin met with Corrado Balducci. Who is Corrado Balducci? Corrado Balducci is not only the official spokesman for the UFO in the Vatican. You understand? This is just a front. Who is he? He's a demonologist.
Okay.
The biggest exorcist in the Vatican.
Right.
That should already make you think, okay, there is a connection here between the alien myth and the demonology. Mm-hmm. Now we found also that this connection is very much alive when most of the people who have spread the disinformation regarding the alien beings have been from the time of Aleister Crowley, his followers of Hubbard or whatever. But the people that have been deliberately spreading this information. But to a certain extent, Hubbard knew the truth as well as Crowley, because they said themselves, I mean, it was Crowley who said, you call them gods, then we call them angels. In 50 years we will call them something else. He showed the image of the lamb, which was the first image resembling an alien being. This is genies. In Islam we call them genies. Jinns.
But by any other name, what are we talking about? We're talking about spirits. We're talking about a demon is nothing other than a spirit being, a being, who is perhaps not incorporated in the material world.
No, it can be, can incorporate. The thing is that there is a certain degree of misconception. Okay, let me tell you exactly what are these UFOs. UFO are unidentified beings, okay, or objects that fly around. Either they are military stealth operations, which can't be disclosed, or either they are operations regarding the evocation of genies, coming from other dimensions. So, an interdimensional door is created, is opened up. Where can these interdimensional doors can be opened up? In certain spaces, certain places, certain holy ground from ancient times known to possess that's possibility.
For example,
purpose. For example,
in Iraq, for example.
No, just go to Mount Graham and study a bit what the Jesuits are doing up there. There is a war between the American natives, Indians, and the Jesuits since the Jesuits have tried to build this observatory. And why is that? Because the Indians have used that mountain as holy ground for thousands of years, and there is a specific entity living on top of that mountain, but on another dimension. When he wants, he can be called upon this dimension and evoked. The Jesuits, what they want to do. In the meantime, they accuse the American Indians, oh, these are pagans, what are they doing to us? So we have to do science, observe the stars. Oh, rubbish. What they're doing? They are, yes, observing the stars and the planets. Why? Because you always have to reflect above, below, whatever, this rule of the Esmeralda tablets of Hermes. I don't need to go on with what is the main rule of the Freemasons, also to reflect below what is above. But it is to evoke these entities in a specific time frame, and this has to be carefully calculated. What is magic? The magic is the calculation of the arts with peculiar calculations around the symbols to evoke certain entities and have from them, if you want, certain gratifications. You can work with them. I, for example, can tell you a story which is a family story from a relative of my wife actually, who I think his uncle or his grand uncle, whatever, who started working with these entities, these genes. Why? Because he had a little, a little ranch style, American style, you call it ranch, how you call it,
A ranch?
Yeah, where you have animals, where you have, where you're planting things. So he was alone. He wanted to find some workers. This guy was very clever because he knew certain secret codes within the Quran that shouldn't be used. He knew how to use them. He knew that reciting certain prayers in a continuous motion, he will evoke certain presences, and eventually he got to make a deal with them, and they were working for him at night in the fields, doing all the field work, and a lot of Americans say, wow, I would love to have that going on in my place, I could have a couple of these genies coming to work for me. But that means subjecting yourself to those entities. That guy had to sell his soul. More than that, he would be enslaved by those forces for the rest of his life. In fact, he had to continuously recite these prayers and then not recite it at certain times and whatever, otherwise he will create for himself a disaster. And so,
okay, well then let's talk about you, for example.
And these entities also do the same thing as what the Americans call abduction. I found reports in Middle Eastern villages, many Middle Eastern villages, of abductions. But how they're not going to go to an American researcher and say, I saw the UFO. You're not going to find anything. Instead, these entities have appeared, have manifested, not only have took people on inside their dimension, in their own in their own kingdom. They have basically kidnapped people, sometimes beaten them up, and then thrown them back into this dimension. And this happened many times. But obviously, for the Middle Eastern person, they call it
genes. So basically, you are just using a different language to deal with these entities.
We're definitely using.
Who cares what you call them?
I know, but we have to be specific here, because the moment you call them UFO, you are doing exactly what the enemy wants you to do. The moment you call them aliens, you're doing exactly what the enemy wants you to do. do.
Let's talk about your background a little bit.
No, but let's finish
because-
about Planet X, because Planet X is very important. If we don't finish
Sure, we want to go there, but I'd like to first talk about, you must have evolved, you have not sold your soul, is this correct?
at a certain time I sold my soul. I hope that God will grant me that I will be forgiven for what I did, and I will be able
Because
to...
you did evocation, you must do this as do you consider yourself a master at this point? You're 33-degree Mason.
33 degrees, an honorary title which I didn't give much importance. The information from the alien department, the Planet X, or whatever other spiritual practice is coming filtered from them is because there is a reason. They don't want you to perceive the real matter, the real reality. Which
what is the real reality then?
The real reality is that we are definitely in a constant fight between angels and demons, between the devil, Iblis, who represents the dark side, and God.